Hey, this is the Entertainment Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is the topic of will we ever run out of new music trends? So, when it comes to this topic, what I'll be discussing is just like how music from the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s all had their own distinct sound. What I'll be discussing for this video in a simple and straightforward way is the topic of will music stop evolving? Will we ever reach a point where, music doesn't evolve anymore. It stops changing based on each new decade with how it sounds because we run out of ideas. Is what I'll be discussing in a way that anyone can understand it. So if you're interested in finding it out, then watch this video and you will see the truth. So now I mention that, let's get started. So when it comes to answering that question, straight up, no, I don't believe we're ever going to run out of new music trends. Not unless it's done by corporations with this whole retro theme shit that they're trying to push now, which I always hated it. And you can thank Bruno Mars for that and a few other people for promoting that, which I just feel like, in all honesty, I'm just going to be upfront. I just don't like the retro sound in music that's being put out there. I just don't like it. But aside from talking about that, what we're the main point of this video is talking about will music always keep on evolving? Just like how music from the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, as each decade went on from the 1950s all the way to the 1990s, you obviously saw the music, the way it sounded change. You know, the question is, will in the 2030s, 2040s, 2050s, 2060s, and so on and so forth, um, is it possible that music can change the way it sounds from that point on, based on the way music has always evolved over time? Okay, and the simple answer to that question is I definitely believe it can, because the truth of the matter is, even though I know a lot of people at this point, of course certain types of people especially, which I don't want to get into, have said that everything that has been done has already been done, I actually beg to differ and I completely disagree. Okay, because even though yes, a lot of things have been done, when it comes to music, something as big and massive as music, with there being so many different instruments, there's literally easily anywhere from dozens to hundreds of instruments um, for any particular main culture, whether it could be anything from you know European, Middle Eastern, African, and so on and so forth. There are so many variations of every type of instrument, for every culture. There's numerous different types of flutes, there's numerous different types of things out there, that are even variations of those particular one of those hundreds of instruments that I mentioned for each particular culture. Like, to sum it up, there's so many sounds you can use. The idea that we're run out of anything is simply unfounded and untrue. I actually completely disagree with that sentiment, in all honesty, okay? So, the truth of the matter is, I don't believe it's going to happen anytime soon, even hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of years. Probably not. I don't think it's ever really going to happen for infinity. But to make things simple, anytime in the foreseeable future, like hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of years, which reasonably is how long humanity's probably going to be until we either destroy ourselves or we have to obviously, elevate to a level where we are able to create our own universes, all that type of stuff. So to sum it up, as long as humanity is going to be around this universe, from that point on, I don't think we're ever going to run out of new music, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, just too many instruments and too many that are out there, that the idea that you'd run out of anything is just simply unfounded. Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to answering this question, aside from just simply the fact that there's so many different instruments, it's more than just even down to the amount of instruments that are out there. It comes down to the many different types of fundamental rhythm patterns that are out there that you can create. There's so many, it's ridiculous. There's so many chords you can use that can define the sound of that particular that particular era, for that matter. there's so many variables that come into the mix, when it comes to main fundamental things that make up music, like the type of instruments, the type of you know like I was saying before, the type of rhythm patterns you use, the type of chords you use, the type of scales you use. Like when it comes to the few main fundamental principles of music, there's so, so many different things from those few main categories that you can use. Um, that is ridiculous. Okay, there's literally easily dozens of chords out there. And like I was saying before, there's hundreds of instruments out there. So to think that you'd run out of it anytime soon makes absolutely no sense, especially when you take in consideration that every decade tends to use a particular main instrument, a particular main chord progression, a particular main rhythm pattern to really define that era. Okay, and not just for a decade. Okay, so you only have to do really one out of the numerous different things for a particular decade to really define the sound of it. Just like how when you look at 1970s music, you can listen to it automatically and kind of tell like the type of music, you know, you know, that it is, like disco and something, because that's the music that came out from that particular era, okay? Which the music that they tend to use is that they tend to use funk scales, okay? And that's literally the sound that defines it, just one thing. And there's literally thousands of different scales out there, or if not thousands, at least hundreds of different scales out there. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get across here. Okay, so when you're looking at it from that perspective, okay, that you only need one real change, whether it could be down to an instrument, whether it could be down to a chord progression, scales, one of the numerous of the hundreds, if not thousands, of different things they have out there for those three main categories out of the numerous categories that there are out there, okay, to really define a sound for a particular decade, then you don't really have much to really think that that could easily last for anywhere from many decades to hundreds, if not thousands of years without you running out of new music trends to really, um, of course, make. So you can obviously have a situation where you don't have to worry about running out of new music, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to that particular system, that is what's necessary for music to thrive, okay? For music to actually sound good, it actually, in other words, to be more specific, when it comes to sounding good, it actually has to have variety, okay? And if you use the same instruments, same this, same that, you will run out of new idea for music to create, okay? To be quite blunt and honest with you, you run out of new ideas, okay? That is the honest truth. You'll run out of new ideas, okay? Because there's only so many notes that you can use out there until it's like we've used everything that there is to use. Okay, that's why you need to create new trends. For each particular decade to give the illusion that you're creating something new, which in actuality you are creating something new. In a sense. Okay, so that's why you need new trends. So to answer your question, the idea that we're ever gonna run out of new music, when it comes to trends and stuff, it's just simply unfounded. I don't think we're ever going to run out of new ideas. I think as long as humanity's going to exist in this universe, I truly believe we are going to have new ideas that are always going to exist. I believe there's going to be something new that's going to come up, and I truly believe as a result of that, there's going to be something that comes up um, that of course replaces the old. So the idea that we're ever going to run out of new music trends, when it comes to what I'm referring to trends, is simply unfounded and untrue. Okay, as long as corporations don't ruin everything like they have a history of doing, things can last for as long as possible, and that's the honest truth. So in short, to answer your question, no, I don't think we're going to run out of new music trends. I believe it's going to last forever, as long as it's done properly, And that's the honest truth. So anyway, this is my video. This is all to say. And simply put, if you like this video, remember to thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button. And that's all to say. And simply put, I'm out. So bye.